doing something with the horses. She's aggravated her ankle, so she's not coming. I imagine Nicola will be here in a minute. But why don't we just sort of start with, we'll do a little practice when she gets here, but just to sort of make use of the time more effectively. Why don't we just see how you guys are getting on, what you sort of feel, because this is obviously the last one. So, I mean, I say that genuinely, if you ever want to discuss, if you feel like you're losing your way, you want to chat, I'm always happy to do that. So honestly, don't feel like this is cut off and nothing more, but it is the last class. So what we're going to really look at today is basically have a sort of bit of a review of where we've got to, how you feel the practice is going, and then how we can take it forward for changing the rest of your life, really. So, don't worry. So we've been sort of chit-chatting mainly. So, I'm just going to say that we're going to just look at a little bit about where we've been, and also what we can do to try and really use these practices to change our lives. So, but before we do that, let's do just a little sit down, just gather ourselves here and now. So just making sure you've got a nice upright posture, nice and relaxed, feeling into your presence on the chair, that physical sense of being here. Just noticing how, as you settle down and relax, your whole system, your whole body just naturally finds its own rhythm, its own pace. Just as we don't need to adjust anything about the workings of our body, we don't need to try and change anything about our relationship to the world around us and within us. We don't need to change the way we feel, all the thoughts that are arising, or anything that our senses are aware of. We're just open and aware to it all. Our awareness bright and attentive. A total sense of acceptance for everything here and now, embodied in a deep sense of relaxation. Just allow everything to settle in. The past has already passed. We don't try to regain it. The present doesn't remain, so we don't try to hold on to it from moment to moment. And the future hasn't yet come, so we don't pre-think that either. We just are. Just gently allowing your eyes to open. Trying to retain that state of presence. So, how's everybody got on for the last week with the practice of presence? Good. Yeah? Yeah. Fantastic.
I'm pleading the fifth, I'm afraid.
Pleading the fifth? Not at all.
I did one morning, but that was kind of about it. Since then I'll be bouncing around up and down, just kind of
Okay.
not grabbing time for myself because I just...
You've got so much on.
Well, as soon as I step back to do something, I want to, put it back in, so I just... So I've...
Excellent. Good. So, I mean, for the next week, we're going to be continuing with the same practice. So you've still got this week ahead. And then there's everything, the rest of your life on after that. So
I think it's really amazing. I just needed to work a bit harder to find the time.
It's that, I mean, the week one, I start off with that sort of a message about the importance of building habits and things. But the reality is for a lot of us that we sit there and go, oh yeah, good idea, yeah. But actually still making it happen is not always that easy. It does take a bit of time. And it's that sort of chicken and an egg, because until you can sort of really appreciate the benefits, it's slightly harder. Once you've started to appreciate the benefits, then it's a kind of no-brainer. You know the importance of it. So, but the practice of presence is a very nice meditation to get into. So it's very open, very accepting, very relaxing. But all of these practices have their place. So, do feel free to mix and match, whatever you feel like that day. You might decide, so we've got the counting the breath, we've got just the following the breath, the practice of presence, and obviously the body scan at the beginning as well. But you can do, I quite often start any meditation with a little bit of counting the breath, just to sort of anchor myself in the present moment and to sort of bring those thoughts just to sort of settle down. So feel free to sort of freestyle a bit once you've got into it. So I'd recommend keep using the audios. They're still, you'll have them for as long as you like.
I was going to say, the one thing I will say, even though I haven't done it as much as I would have liked to say, before, it's just sitting still just to quiet myself would have been a lot harder and funny and a lot easier to do.
Good.
When I do it.
Yeah.
So that's progress.
It is. Yeah. The thing is that you've got, the main and most important thing is that you've got the rest of your lives ahead of you. So it's the only thing is that arguably, if you found it harder whilst you were in a support group in a class, it's likely to be a bit tougher without that structure moving forward. So I'd really, really recommend that you do a few things to sort of really make that happen. First and foremost, I would say, have you all used your journals?
I've been using it, like writing some stuff in my notes on my phone, because normally I'll have it there, because I keep losing track of it.
Yeah, I'm not very good with the journal, but I do jot it down. I always have this black notebook with me in my bag. I write it like bits and bits, because I'm obviously not always with that when I do it.
Well, actually, one of the things
I do always make it like one line.
I like writing it, just not necessarily in that book.
Sorry, Jackie, you were going to say.
No, I'm not very good at journals, even though I love writing, but I scribble all the time, so I will put something when it comes into my head in my work when I'm writing stuff, because I like very much.
I think it's just, it's not one of my natural inclinations, generally, but I do have it on good authority, and that it really is quite, beneficial.
Yeah, it's that power of something when you actually write it. The power is stronger, and the connection is stronger than when you actually just type it or you put a note somewhere.
I feel like when I was in like a rush, obviously I felt like if I didn't write anything, I was going to write like the whole thing, but then if I was just doing it quickly, I made sure I had to write like one word to describe the thing, like relaxed, like busy, sort of how like my mind felt. So
Yeah,
I feel like I haven't like logged it sort of thing. So that's when I do it on my phone.
Yeah. Well, after this, I can't do it right now because the video is going for Imogen, but for all of you. But there is an app that I can send you the link to, which it's not a formal app. You've actually got to kind of drag it onto. It's a web page, and I can't remember how you do it, but you can drag it onto your phone desktop thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's actually one of the Zenways members, I think, or created it as part of a university project or something like that. And anyhow, so that's a digital thing that you can always have with you on your phone. So that it's free anyway, so you might as well try and use that as well. But yeah, it's to try and have a bit of a strategy going forward as to how you're gonna do things. So and I think it probably is a bit helpful to actually before I move on to that, the thing with the journal, which I'm guessing has maybe passed you by a little bit if you've not been using it that much. It's the questions that are in there, the mindful activities, things like that. I would actually say it might be worth your while starting again with writing those down each week. They're the same question each day for each week, but start off with week one and just have in mind what the question is. I can't remember what they are specifically, but the reason for that is that if you can bring mindful moments, sort of mini moments into your day, mindful activities, all of these sort of things, it kind of helps permeate your day with the sort of attitude that will seep in. So I'll come back to that in a minute though. So am I right in thinking that those mini meditations, daily mindful activities, mindful movements, not really sort of taken hold that much with any of
The
you?
mindful moments that me and Alice always talk about, like the little things that we will do, and like even when we just speak to each other, like we always talk about the mindful things, like the topics and stuff.
Yeah.
So not necessarily in the book, but like definitely things like that.
Yeah.
And I found at work as well, like for example, like pushing a push chair, like I'll just think about everything I'm doing. Like,
Good.
Pushing up, I'll think about it. A lot
Yeah, I
more.
definitely did it on board as well. Like at work today, it was just like this guy was just being an absolute idiot, and I usually before I would have got really raged about it, I literally just let it go. Like I had like the quotes that you sort of say,
Yeah.
like constantly in my head. You don't ever realise, but you actually do like really process them.
It is funny how, because so much of this is really just paying attention at its core. But it's paying attention and paying attention on a number of different levels. So it's the pure paying attention, but it is also paying attention without judgment and noticing if you're judging things. And noticing how things feel when you judge things, how they feel if you're allow the situation to get out of control. So all of those things, are developing, and all you have to do is practice them, and it just happens within your system. So, so it's worth keeping on doing those, and I keep looking at the red book for that, the journal, just to sort of get ideas on that. And the reason all of that is that basically, unlike a lot of things, so if this was a pottery workshop or something, you'd all be going home with a nice little lump of twisted clay, and you may or may not go and buy yourself a turning wheel or whatever, but most people probably wouldn't. But the difference with this, and I'm not trying to be competitive with pot making, is that this is something that actually really transforms your whole life the more you do it. So it's like refurbishing the foundations of who you are. And it's, my teacher Daizan has said before with these things that it's really like treating your life like a work of art, and that you are the artist of that. And it doesn't have an end to it. There isn't a sort of final goal. You don't go home with the pot. it's constant. It's for the whole of your life. You are becoming more alive, more connected to all of life the more you practice this. There isn't a sort of an end goal, but at the same time, you can actually, if I was to say to you, well, you were training to be to go jogging, okay? Now you could train every day of the year to go jogging, and maybe in a few years' time, or maybe actually right now, you could go on a London Marathon or something. But the chances are you're never going to become the world gold medalist at running, because there's only ever going to be one at a time. Yeah. So the chances of that aren't there. But you can actually, it is within each of your power to become a Zen master. That sounds ridiculous, but it is totally true. The more you take these practices on board, and that's not about having the title of Zen master. It's nothing to do with that at all. It's about transforming your life so that you are at one with the whole of existence. You and the universe are just consciously evolving moment by moment. I would say that the highest achievement of humanity that it is possible to have is yours for the taking. The more you go for these things. So we started off by talking about 100 days to get your practice embedded. Yep. And that's 100 continuous days. So, but let's not worry too much about that. But that's there as a sort of something to keep you in place. But ultimately, there isn't an end to this. That's really just to get the habit embedded. So if you were thinking to yourself, well, heck yeah, I'm getting this under my belt, I'm starting to feel some differences, what can I actually expect the changes to be in my life? We've looked at a lot of them over the last 7 weeks. Any thoughts?
The changes directly from doing the practice.
Yeah.
I think I think about things a lot more than I did before. Like, I'm quite an impulsive person, and I think a lot of the things I say or decisions I make, like, I'll just take that 10 minutes to think about what I really think, and normally my reactions are so different from what they would be before. Like, dealing with people, stuff that upsets me, like, I'm very different, I think, in terms of
Good.
that.
Excellent. Yeah. Anything, anybody else?
Just being actually present so you can actually enjoy things.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things pass you by.
They definitely do. Yeah.
You're too busy to pay attention to them.
Well, I mean, a number of times I see, and I'm not saying I haven't done this as well, but I quite often, walking along the pavement, and I'm like, are you going to walk straight into me? As somebody walking towards me is like this, and there's nothing intrinsically wrong with that, but unless it's if you're just caught up in that as an addictive habit, you are missing out on the real things of life. So
One of the weird things, I've always been someone who kind of, how do I phrase this without sounding stupid? I enjoy people, I enjoy making people laugh, I enjoy interaction and all that kind of stuff. But when I come back, please don't take this personally, when I came back to England, everyone was thinking that I was like a bit of a flippity jigger, didn't take things seriously because I wasn't being serious. It's like the difference between being serious about something and still be able to like smile and look like and accept other information. But because I wasn't doing that, everyone was like, oh yeah, she's like, she's not really serious. So apologies, I don't know. People honestly thought that I wasn't receiving information that I didn't know, because I'm not away with the fairies, and I'm like, yeah, I heard you the first time, I've just moved on, I'm way beyond, I'm way ahead of you, kind of thing. And that's, but then I started to I suppose I felt a bit sort of cornered to prove that I was paying attention to people, which made me alter a little bit how I react or am with some people, and that kind of I think that took something away. So I think I'm old enough now to be able to reclaim that. But I just felt it was a shame that had to, because that's growing up, isn't it? And that's interacting and going into new experiences and things.
Yeah.
But that one, I think that one was particularly personal. I felt very kind of like, do I look stupid? You know, it's a bit like,
Yeah. But I think that
too much information, guys.
I mean, one of the things that, which kind of touches on what you're talking about, really, is that meditation does bring about, generally, is a greater sense of joy in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not caught up in that habitual responses to things with anger and with, just allowing your conscious awareness to be there so that you don't notice, so that you do notice the triggers that people are switching on, and you're stepping back and going, okay, you've just switched my trigger on. I can feel that. I know what it's like when I let that run and I respond and we have a storm, and I don't want that. So I'm going to step back and I'm just going to respond consciously rather than react unconsciously. And just those simple things bring more joy into our lives, because we're not habitually caught up in this cycle of anger. You know that thing where you've had a day when, it's the sort of third or fifth thing that blows your top because you've just been suppressing the bloody person in the car who pushed in, and your boyfriend or your whatever pissed you off in the morning because they didn't bring you a cup of tea or whatever it might be, and there's another thing and another thing, and then you're suddenly absolutely enraged and you've just blown it off. And there's less of that because you're learning to process life, allow life to just take its course as it does. It unfold, moment by moment through your day. So that brings more joy. It not only brings more joy, but it also brings greater health. Because if you remember, we talked how damaging stress is to your health. So it's not only unpleasant, but it's not good for your health. Meditation tends to lead, for those reasons before said, to longevity, to living not just a longer life, but a healthier longer life. Again, they're not standalone things. If I keep being the weight I am, I will probably live less time than I will if I also lose weight as well as meditate. These things are all together. It's not just one simple thing. It's not the sole solution, but it is a powerful ingredient in the mix of life. So all of those things are really, really worth continuing your practice for. It's also one of the other things that perhaps we don't particularly like touching on is because of, when I talk about longevity, but something at the end of the day is going to get us all. We are all going to die. And it is actually considered that meditation is the best practice for death. It's a bit morbid, obviously, but it's true. Because in a way, so much of our practice is about letting go of having control, of thinking we've got the illusion that we've got control over our lives, and actually just letting ourselves be carried by the current of life, the flow of life as it naturally takes us. And part of that is death. It's the most overwhelming of those things to let go of. But letting go of the small things gradually builds our ability to let go of the bigger, more scary things as well. Just like, when I said, if you're facing up to pain, you start with practicing with small, pain, and then you kind of build and build and build, and you become aware that you have what the capacity you have for dealing with these things is. So being aware that we're going to die and knowing that meditation ultimately will transform our life experience right to the end, and also make us more conscious that in this limited life, it's really, really precious. And making the right choices for the right reasons is so important. This isn't a practice run. I mean, who knows? Maybe you will come back in a different body in another time. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you will. But none of us really know for sure how that bit works. But right now, these bodies, these lives you've got now is the most important thing. And how you choose to live them, whether you choose to live them consciously or not, is going to have a massive impact on how how the whole thing unfolds. There's a nice little quote. Have any of you ever heard of? I know Buddhism is not really your thing probably at this stage, but Pema Chodron. So Pema Chodron is I think she's an American Buddhist nun who lives in Canada, and she's somebody worth having a look at on Instagram or whatever. Pema, Pema Chodron, and so it'll be on the video. Pema Chodron, and she's a Westerner, but she's a very serious Buddhist nun, and being a woman and a very powerful sort of influencer in this room, she's worth having a look at. She's a very wise lady. Anyhow, she said that we think that the point, this is the point of life, we think that the point is to pass the test or overcome the problem. But the truth is that things don't really get solved. They come together and fall apart. Then they come together again and fall apart again. It's just like that. The healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, room for relief, for misery, for joy. So it's noticing, when I say, when she says, for it all to come together and fall apart, this is the sort of flow of life, relationships come together, not just sort of partnerships, but friendships and things. Things come together, they blossom, they pass. New things come. That is the nature of life. Some of them, hopefully the most valuable ones, last a lot longer, but always things come to an end. And it's noticing and recognizing that allows us to live with a bit of freedom. To be the artist of your own life without depending on anybody else to make it sort of how it should be. So there are different levels at which you can engage in meditation. So I'm going to use a bit of a sports analogy here. So you can be an occasional meditator, and some of the people who study this course will become occasional meditators. I'm absolutely sure that's the case. The regular daily practice will gradually drop away. There'll be a stressful day. They'll get home from work and they'll go, where's that audio of Nick talking away about some meditation? Which one? I'll do that one, and I'll go, oh, I feel more relaxed now, that was good. And then a month later, the same will happen again. And now, that's using this course, I'm not objecting, but that's using it like a sticking plaster. And it'll help for that. But that is so the under usage of what you've got at your fingertips. So if that's what you use it for, it will have some, but fairly minimal, impact on your life in the sense of how much it can have. If you become a regular meditator, so you do a bit every day or most days, then it'll start to seep into your life more. You will become more aware of the things that trigger you. You'll become more sensory, you're more alive to the things that happen, that you pick up in your senses, and life will take on a greater degree of richness. Yeah. If you become a professional meditator, in the sense that you really do it a lot, you take this course and you go, this is going to form a backbone to my life, then it will significantly transform your life. And then there are the sort of Pelés of footballers like Pelé, who are the sort of the gold medal winners of meditation. There's a guy in Nepal, at least he was there a few years ago, who youngish guy who was videoed meditating non-stop for days and days and days and days, months even, I think. I don't know, maybe he knew he was getting water or food or anything. And undoubtedly, if that's what he's really doing, he will be experiencing states of, I can't imagine, but states of such profound awakening that his whole life will be so totally different. So there are different levels that you can engage with these things. I would start off with the regular, move in the direction of professional. Forget the top and the bottom particularly, but just do that and you're well on your way. So we said about the 100 days. If you were going to head towards the top end of the scale, then it's like I said, 100 days is just a rough guide. It's no scientist has sat down and said, oh, if you only meditate or you only do this, that, and the other habit for 99 days, you won't have learnt it. It's just a guide. And in the same way, there is this sort of rumoured thing of becoming a master of anything, of 10,000 hours. Okay? You heard that? Yeah. So, Daizan often refers to this and sort of says, well, it's not a bad benchmark. I mean, he's been a full-time monk, I don't know, 25, 30 years, and he is a Zen master. So, I mean, he's probably got a pretty good idea of what that entails. So, a way to look at that, if we just look at that as a benchmark, this is the point at which your whole experience of life is totally transformed. 10,000 hours, if you were to practice for 25 minutes every single day, that's about 30 years of practice. So, for you two, that's kind of like quite, for us.
We need to do that now.
So, you think of it in those terms, you think, but that's a long time, a long, slow process. But there are obviously things that you can do to make those changes and that progress much swifter. So, naturally, you could, if you're doing a 25-minute meditation, and it is best if you can do it in the morning, primarily because I'm also going to say, you can then do another 25 minutes in the evening. Hey! Start your day, end your day in the best possible way. So that brings it down to 15 years. That brings it down to 30 years. Because it's an hour a day, it's near enough. 30 years. If you're doing it half an hour, it's 60 years. I don't think many of us should rely on that. So, but beyond that, going back to the red journal, there are other things as well. So you can choose to extend the periods of your meditation practice. So you can go for 25 minutes and you can try meditating for 3/4 of an hour or an hour at a time, in the morning and in the evening. That all sounds quite daunting, probably, at the moment. Another option, which is actually really effective as well, is these little mini practices. So dotted through your day, choosing. So that can be, there's two different types basically. So there's the mindful activities. So, for example, and you try to choose them, things that you do every day. Brushing your teeth, having a shower, eating a meal on your own, like breakfast that you might be able to do. I mean, it's, because it's easy, you don't want to try and do it at supper or if you've got a family meal, because that's more tricky, but just making yourself a cup of tea, mindfully. Boiling the kettle, filling it with water and boiling it, mindfully. Getting the teaspoon, mindfully. Each step of one thing that might last a few minutes, that's valuable. That affects your whole way of being. If you do that with 2 or 3 things throughout the day, that makes a big difference. If you also bring in, people quite often would go out for cigarette breaks at work and things, in the old days.
Yeah.
It's doing the same sort of thing. Go to the loo for 2 minutes.
Oh, I do all the time.
There you go.
Well, I'm getting paid to sit here.
So, for 2 minutes, just go for a pee. Pee mindfully. Just follow your breath. You're seeping. That's a bad choice of words under the circumstances. But you're seeping into your daily life this reminder of being present, of being aware. And that is really, really powerful. So, those are things that you're already doing. Keep doing it more. And then really beyond that, the other thing is, which we've also touched upon, is the opportunities in terms of people that personal interactions. So being mindful of your conduct with other people, the triggers, but also, so not necessarily always with difficult people, but just with everybody you're engaging with, because life is made up of we're social animals. So just, get that, what I would say is get that 25 minutes if you can in the morning, really, really established. And then start, not necessarily every day, but start every now and again to throw one in the evening as well. Build that up. And in the meantime, start dropping in mindful activities and mindful moments into your day. And if you pinpoint them, you think, I'm always going to do this when I brush my teeth, I'm always going to do it when I go for a pee, and when I make a cup of tea. Then you've got quite a few points throughout your day that you know you're going to be just bringing your awareness back to the present. Yeah? And it really will start to impact your awareness. It really will. So, other things that you can do. Do it mindfully now. So there are a couple of other things that are worth mentioning with regard to that. You can tell I'll say about this later, but there's one is that Daizan has got a book sort of based on this course. It's not exactly the same, which is called Practical Zen. And if you want the links, I can put it on the WhatsApp group. Practical Zen for health and well-being, and you know, you might find it a useful book to read as you keep going forward. So do that if you want to. Get a journal. Two other things that I do to help support. One which is more suitable for you than for you at the moment. You know about the Saturday group that I run that your mum and dad come to.
Yeah.
It's a fortnight, which
One in Forest Road.
in Forest Road, which you'd be very, very welcome to come along to.
I'm moving away soon.
I know, well, you're going back to uni.
Yeah, I'm moving up to Aldgate, so hopefully I can find something like that.
Well, there's that. There's also I do a thing online called Our Mindful Lives, which is a free drop-in 7 o'clock in the mornings. You up at 7?
Sometimes.
Well, you don't have to. It's when you
I have
want.
9 a.m. lectures, so I'm hoping I will be.
So it doesn't. It lasts. It's basically from 7 to 7:30.
Okay.
If I will put the link to that on the website. So just saying that I do a fortnightly Forest Row meeting, but you guys are back at university, so you know when you come back for the holidays,
Yeah.
well, you'll know about it because your parents will know about it, and you can tell Elsie when it's happening. If you want to come along, please do. And Jackie, you know, please do. We'd love to see you as well. But a friend of there's actually two fellow teachers of mine, Ricardo and Sean. We run this thing called Our Mindful Lives, which is an online Zoom thing on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, and Thursday evening. It's totally free. You can just turn up when you turn up. All I need to do is give you the link, the Zoom link, and if you want to turn up, you turn up. If it's once a month, once a year, never, every time, doesn't matter. There's no, you know, it's entirely up to you. But if you've got it there and you feel like you want to be part of a group that gives a bit of support, you're not at University of London, though, are you?
No, I'm in
Nottingham.
Yeah.
There used to be a Zen group in Nottingham, but I don't think there is anymore. You're not that close to Camberwell anymore, are you?
No, not anymore. It was down the road, but I think it would be probably 35, 40 minutes to be fair.
Because that's on a Sunday
On Sunday, okay.
evening. But if
Yeah.
you ever decide, well, if any of you ever decide you want to go to the London Dojo,
Yeah,
I can let you know on the WhatsApp group that I'm going.
yeah. My dad goes, isn't he?
He's been up once with me, yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll
Is
probably-
there any other Zenways ones, or is that just Camberwell?
It's Camberwell is the only Zenways one. There are other Buddhist groups that are not all Zen. That
Yeah.
doesn't. But you know that's still. You know, I mean, following any of these things is good. But yeah, any meditation group, just look up for meditation groups. I mean, I would be conscious of what they are. There's probably quite a range. And I personally would suggest going for something that is traditional rather than somebody who's you know, you do get a little bit of slightly bonkers meditation stuff as well, you know, guided visualizations, you know, you're now reaching the gates of the seventh heaven, and you know, the fairy kingdom is before you, you know, I mean, I just
Oh, so I was going to say, could you put the details for the one on the
Yeah.
on the group chat. 'Cause I think that
It's the
would
same
be
Zoom.
handy.
It's the same Zoom link. So Ricardo does the Thursday evenings, and Mondays. Sean does Monday mornings. I do Wednesday mornings, and then Friday mornings we just sit in silence on the Zoom. So we just gather but sit in silence. It's unguided.
It's half an hour in the mornings.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's roughly half an hour in the evening as well.
So can I do that from uni?
Yeah. You can just do it on Zoom.
I have a 3-day Thursday as well, so I
I'm
should
gonna
definitely
write this down.
Yeah, so
On a Wednesday, I start work at normally like 8 a.m. So I will be awake.
Yeah. Good.
I'll be forced to.
Is it Thursday morning and evening?
So no, it's
Wednesday
7
morning.
a.m. Monday.
Yeah.
This all will be on this video as well, so you can put together. 7 a.m. Monday, 7 a.m. Wednesday,
Yeah.
7 a.m. Friday, and I'm not sure it's 7 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. on Thursdays.
So that one would be the one I probably do.
Yeah,
I might do Wednesday.
yeah. But it's something to keep you connected, so that's quite a useful thing to have. And I was also mentioning when you were out of the room that my teacher Daizan has got a book on this course, or that relates to this course. It's about 10 quid from Amazon. I'll put the link on there for that as well. So if you choose you want to get that, it's just, whilst you keep practicing, it might be nice to have something to read that keeps you connected to it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got the videos for all of these as well. Did we manage to record all of them, or did we miss the first one?
The first one is most of them.
Yeah. Well, that's mainly telling you how to develop
I'm sure
a habit.
it would be 7 or 8 others.
Yeah.
Good. And then it's worth mentioning that beyond your daily practice, there are other things which I've probably touched on already. I'm sure I have. But this is sort of useful in that sense of knowing, again, this is not just a course that you go home with your clay pot at the end and that's it. There are other things that you can continue with, that I can put you in touch with, that you can continue growing your practice. The most powerful of which are retreats. And I think that if you are interested in going on retreat at any point, they're usually 3 days. They're usually from, I know that there's one in early December. There might be one before then, I'm not sure. There's certainly one in January or February as well next year. They're usually from sort of like a Thursday evening till a Sunday evening, or a Friday. It's 3 days. So Thursday evening, so you've got then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You finish on Sunday afternoon, or sometimes they're Friday to Monday. They are at the moment most often in North Wales, which is a train journey, but it does kind of mean it's a sort of holiday. They're not, it's like a couple of days off to get there, and then you've got the weekend and then getting back. So you probably need the weekend plus a couple of days. They're not particularly expensive, but it's a few $100. But they are absolutely life-changing experiences. Or they have the potential to be. But they don't come with an absolute guarantee. But they are, they're very, very powerful processes. And it probably isn't a bad idea to have a more detailed chat if you are interested in any point about it. You've also got Dave and Linda that you can, Linda especially, you can talk to your mum about it, because she has done one. You can do them online as well as she did.
Do one. I just need to find the right time.
Yeah. But they are very, very good at, you basically, all those things in your life that you have started to identify with, those things that have happened to you, that you have done to the world, that don't sit comfortably and well with you, that are, but sit with you nevertheless. You basically, a bit like counselling, it's a very intense process of really coming face to face with all of those things in your own time, in your own way, but it is a fairly non-stop process. And in the doing of that, there are tears, there's laughter, there's tiredness, and a very good chance at the end of a complete sense of liberation and transformation. So there is the process. It's incredible how actually when you really deeply connect and look face to face with the things that your life has been made up of, and actually you just start to let go of them. The more intensely you look at them, and you really look at them, they start to lose their power over you. And not only is that liberating to your consciousness, but ultimately it liberates you from the sense that you are a separate human being, and there is a transcendence, an awareness that you and the whole of life are just happening all at once. There's no separation. There's just the most profound, beautiful experience. So all of that is within your grasp, but it's when it's right for you, if it's ever right for you. But know it's there. Beyond that as well, there is, within Zen ways, you can train to become a teacher, as I have. You can train to become a yoga teacher in Zen ways as well. So we have to train, you learn the Zen yoga, and then after you've done that for at least a year, you can train to become a yoga teacher with them. And you can become a meditation and mindfulness teacher. You can also do what I'm doing, which is training to be a Dharma teacher, a teacher of Zen Buddhism. And become a sensei, and then eventually maybe a Roshi or Zen master. So all of those things are available and supported within the community. So as I say, this is not the end of the process if you choose to continue. It's also true to say that really, in a way, as your practice deepens, you will become teachers anyway. Unofficially so, because as it starts to seep into your life, you will probably share it with others. As you start to know how much your life is becoming lighter and more at ease and less caught up in these things, a kindness, an empathy, a desire to help others will start to blossom more and more in your life. And that's something that is part of a natural part of the process, so that's fantastic as well. And also there is a quick sales pitch. No, it's certainly not going to apply to you two. I am not to apply to you two at the moment because you're going back to university. In 2 weeks, theoretically, I am starting a new course on insight meditation, which is taking these practices deeper, and with new practices and energy work, and it's more the path of insight, which is that path of awakening. So rather than so much mindfulness of you within your environment, this is mindfulness and awareness of awareness itself. It's awareness of who you really are. So that's a separate course, which you can do maybe next time. Theoretically, you could, but it's probably got enough to deal with at the moment. I'm not absolutely 100% sure I'm going to do it unless I get at least 3 people in 2 weeks' time, because I'm also trying to do something else at the moment. So we'll see whether that comes to fruition. But those are all things that stay in touch, basically, on all of this. If you start to feel you feel that you've got something out of it so far, there's so much more that you can take it on to beyond. There are 2 sort of relevant steps in this process as well that are worth taking into consideration. So there's what we call change of state and change of trait. So you described, Elsie, earlier about you had a lovely meditation the other day. Yep. So how would you describe that? What made it lovely?
I felt like I was actually really in the zone. Like I just completely switched off, and I tend to struggle with that a lot.
Yeah.
I just had such a hectic day, and I was just really in the zone, and I wasn't thinking. I just didn't struggle to switch into it.
Yeah. You sort of just went
Deeply into it.
Yeah. Lovely. Okay. Now there's different levels of that experience. That experience of just sort of, I kind of think of it as being.
Yeah.
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 And it's not falling asleep. You're brightly awake, but there is just this, there's just an effortlessness, a sort of a depth to it.
That was just it.
So there are different levels of experience of that, but all of that, good as it is, are what we would call changes of state. Our state of awareness shifts. But all states of being are temporary. They're all arise in time and pass in time. You're not still in that same state now that you were whenever, whichever day you had it. So they all arise and pass, okay? On this journey, when you have a change of trait, which is most notably happens when you've done something like a retreat, is it shifts it's like crossing a threshold. There's a change in the way that you relate to life, to other people, and it's a palpable shift. So you know that things are different. You can't unknow it. Yeah, it's a known experience, a directly perceived state of change. So, and that changes your behavior. So it's a change of trait. Your whole relationship to life changes. And so along the journey, you don't have to do that on a retreat. It can happen otherwise. But the more you keep walking this journey, the more authentically you walk this journey, the more you will go through thresholds of change. So there's the little bits. There's, I'm into it, it's my habit. But then there's the actual shifts that start to come about. And it does require either more intense practice in your own time and life, or going on retreat, or both. Yeah, but those are things that really make a big difference. So it's just worth knowing that we're not just about getting into that, ooh, chill out zone, man, which is lovely. Nothing wrong with it at all. Although they do say that if you get caught up in just that, you can forget that there is more beyond. So, and there's a little quote by the main man himself, the Buddha, who said that when you realize, in that state of awakening, when you realize how perfect everything is, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky. Because it's actually what you wake up to is so obvious. It's not that you wake up to the fairies at the gate of the seventh kingdom or anything. You wake up to the reality of life that is so obvious, so simple, yet so profound. And it's not something that's intellectual. It's something that you just come into a state of knowing about life. And that is, here's went a bit funny. And that's something that when you see it, there is that just like, wow, yeah, isn't this amazing? This is life. This is just the most wonderfully beautiful. I've been going around all this time, worrying about this and worrying about that. And yet look at it. Look what I am, where I am, what's happening. I mean, we are, as I've said before, Thich Nhat Hanh says, it's not so much that walking on water is a miracle, just walking on this physical earth. The fact that we exist in this eternal universe. I mean, there are billions and billions of stars, and billions of galaxies, each with, millions of stars and billions of planets. I mean, it goes on forever. And yet, yeah, it's profoundly, but we don't think about it. It's like we've got so used to.
And then we're like sitting there worrying what some girl at work said to us.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Like, you're worrying what this bit says to you. And it's like galaxy.
Yeah, that is exactly what the Buddha is basically saying. You will, when you truly come to know that, not just as a thought, but as a direct experience of knowing, you laugh your head off because you're just like, wow, how could I miss this? This is so obvious. And actually there's another, Layman Pang, who was a 12th century Zen master, said, what I do every day is nothing special. I simply stumble around. What I do is not thought out. Where I go is unplanned. No matter who tries to leave their mark, the hills and dales are not impressed. Collecting firewood and carrying water are prayers that reach the gods. I don't know if that means anything to you, but there is an expression of a version of that says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Which is basically what he's saying. The reality of life doesn't change, but our engagement with life changes, because we realise that on one level we are the wood, we are the water, we are everything, and we come to know that. So the long-term effect of all of this practice, and it's the best indicator that you're doing it right, is what you think.
How you feel?
Kind of, sort of, but beyond how you feel. Sorry? Yeah, those think that's true too. No? But it's not the ultimate. On to you. Elsie's go. It's not really, it's not. No, so the best indicator that you are practicing deeply and truly, and it is becoming part of your life, is that you become more loving. It's true. It's that you start to care for others more. You start to see the pain that you've, in a really simple, and this isn't what it is exactly, but a really simple sort of way. You know how often people, we all sit there and go, well, they said that about me. What have they got against me? All that sort of thing. And actually so much of what that person is saying has actually got nothing to do with you. You're the unintentional target. What's all going on is going on within them. We project out our stuff onto others. And when you start to see your own shit, and you see how much you can let it go and you can allow it to come and pass and not engage, the more you see others trapped in it. And rather than that fight of you said that to me type of thing, you just see them and you're just like, you see them as somebody who is a lost soul in a way. We're all lost, working around in circles at the moment. We're all lost. But when you start to get that sense of awakening that actually we're all connected, we're all part of this life, this one life, manifesting in apparently individual forms, and you see that somebody else is in turmoil, you don't want to fight them, you want to help them. So it's a natural process that love comes into your life more. And there's a nice little quote here. I've got lots of quotes on this one this week. Obama, who, although perhaps not a great spiritual leader, is nevertheless, I think, quite a profound speaker, said, "We are reminded that in the fleeting time we have on this earth, what matters is not wealth, status, power, or fame, but rather how well we have loved and what small part we have played in making the lives of others better." And in fact, the more we kind of forget about our own drama, about ourselves, the more we're able to help others.
That's so nice. I was saying to Elsie, when I'm moving up to uni, I'm doing this thing where I volunteer and I tutor a young refugee, so it's a big charity. So for an hour every week, I'll Zoom with them and help them with their homework or any problems that they have. And I was saying to Elsie, it's just so nice because you feel that you are actually changing someone's life, and they never forget that. You just how you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
So, it's nice.
Yeah, lovely.
Literally.
Yeah. So all of this is heading in that direction. And the Buddha, it's a final quote here, set your heart on doing good. Do it over and over again and you will be filled with joy.
That's so nice.
Right, so I'm conscious we've got 20 minutes before the...
Do it work with me, I would slip out. I just sorry, I have to do it.
Slip out. Well, what I think we'll do is, if you, has everybody got a pen or something they can write on a piece of paper?
I got my phone.
I'll type it in my notes.
Can you write on a phone?
Yeah.
I've got paper. I've got pen, but I don't have paper.
It's okay, I got it in my phone. Mostly
Depending on how easily you can write, maybe just do it sort of shorthand. Just it might be worth just reflecting, thinking how things have changed now from when you started the course. Just sort of bringing your awareness to what, and that be honest. You know, I mean, there'll be some things that have and some things that haven't, but you know, just spend a couple of minutes writing down a few things that you think have changed from when you started. And then if you want to write down some notes or thoughts on what you're going to do moving forward. So the sketch outline of a plan to get you to that 100 days, you know. And that's 100 days from whenever you last didn't miss a day.
I felt the direction of it.
No? I think that everybody has probably missed a day between now and the start of this course.
It's very hard, but I've tried. But
Just keep trying. Just keep trying. If it takes you 100 years, it takes you 100 years.
what did you say we have to do last
So just try to think, just a bit of a strategy. So if you think about it perhaps in the terms that I suggested of, you know, getting that 25, you know, how long are you going to take? So 100 days to get that 25 minutes embedded in your practice. Then maybe looking to start to throw in an extra evening session. You know, that might just be 10 minutes. It might be 25 minutes once every 3 days. It might be anything. But, you know, it's looking at a way, that an aim, a goal to try and build your practice. And then those little mindful moments, and, you know, you might think, well, I'm going to do that when I'm having a shower or having a coffee or taking the dog for a walk or whatever it might be. And don't forget there's those any mindful movements as well. So, you know, mindfully doing yoga or qigong or walking. Fast thumbs in here. So, however you do your diary, what I suggest you do is, even if you just get a blank book, and the thing about the journaling that really helps to start with is that if you start and you write, you do your first practice. Whenever so if you think to yourself, well, actually, look, the next 3 days are going to be tricky. I'm moving back to university. I've got, you know, brother-in-law is very uncertain at the moment. And you think, okay, I'm going to do the best I can for the next week, but in 3 days or in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to really resolve to get my 100 days under my belt. Then take the blank book and start off that as your new journal, and start by just putting day 1, knowing that you're going to put day 2 on the next day until you get up to 100 days. Yeah.
My friend from uni, obviously we're actually living in the same house this year. Last time I was in the hall, so I wasn't like in her space. She does meditation. So I feel like and she like really wakes up early, and I feel like she does it in the morning. So I feel like that would really make me do it. Because we used to go like to the gym together, and it made us go. So I feel like we,
Yeah, very good.
more of a habit. I feel like I actually will do it.
Support of other people is really, really good. I mean,
She's really good at it as
that's
well.
why we do our Mindful Lives thing online, is to try and really just add as a support group.
It kind of makes me motivated to do it.
You've got a friend at uni, you've got your mum and dad, and you've got, in London you will have other places, probably in Nottingham, there's some sort of Buddhist type of sort of meditation session group. So, it's all good.
Are we going to read our little things out?
If you wish.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be quite nice.
Good, go for it. Good, please do.
Am I the first person then?
Well, as you suggested it.
Okay, I don't know whether this was what I was meant to have done, but I've just...
There's no right or wrong.
I'm glad you say that, because it must be right then.
Yeah.
So, the things that I've learned
Yep.
through just thinking and being mindful about myself, I'm able to calm myself down a lot easier in some circumstances, not get as emotionally involved in things.
Yep.
And my biggest lesson has been that others are on their own journey, and even if I can see things from the outside, to let them come to their own conclusions and not waste all my emotional time on it. Because I used to get really stuck on things and get really frustrated. And also that happiness can be found in anything, and to not let other people that don't necessarily know you or might not be your person upset you, because that used to always happen as well. And I'm going to start yoga classes weekly again. So I found at King's they have a group that they do it with every week, which will be mindfulness movement. And then I kind of want to do one of those Wednesday morning or Thursday evening, half an hours.
Good.
And then also just making sure that I don't set my alarm for the last possible minute when I have to wake up. So if I had a lecture at 9, I would literally wake up at 8:30.
I know it well.
So if I just wake up at 8, I could just do it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to try and do that a few days, not every day, because sometimes
Very
I'm
good.
lying, but a few days I'm going to try and just wake up that a little bit earlier and try and do it.
And bearing in mind that not all yoga classes will be stressing the importance of being mindful in what you're doing. You can bring that. Nobody needs to know you're doing it, but that you're just really aware of each stretch, each muscle, each movement. Who's next? You don't have to do this, by the way.
I said, I feel like I've become more capable and better at dealing with my rational thoughts, because I feel like it sounds quite deep. I'm fine, but at the start of summer I had a really bad mental health, and I genuinely feel like this is so cringy, but I feel like this has really started to change my life, and I don't know, I just feel like I'm way more positive and better at dealing with my emotions. I was getting quite emotional a bit. It was really I don't know, I just really totally miss it. I'm also better at sort of being present with my mindset and thinking it is what it is. Obviously that was always a quote I knew, but I'm just really hammering on that now, because my anxiety was a lot of I would think ahead and always think the worst of the situation, and I'm really good at just bring it back in now and think, I'm me, doing the final thing, and it should work right now, it's not going to happen.
And then bring it back into physical sensation.
Yeah.
You don't need to think. I mean, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong with it, but once you've just used that rational bit, then just sort of ground yourself, because that physical sensation, awareness of physical sensation, does not require any analytical process at all. Just feeling your feet on the ground, just feeling the breath in your body, just doing that as a mini practice for 2-3 minutes. Let's go of that, like the hook that anxiety grabs onto you. Yeah.
And that leads me on to say about obviously sometimes you do your 25 minutes, sometimes you generally just sit there for 5 minutes and breathe, but I've really hammered in on everyone says take a deep breath, but that actually means so much to me now. Sometimes I just go, and just my breathing, just that deep breath, really trains my inside voice. I feel like I've just made it more manageable, obviously.
Good.
Not completely, but it's really.
We're all work in progress.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, it's, I think I've mentioned before that even Daizai, my teacher, he is a Zen master in both of the major traditions of Zen. And yet, so he is very, I mean, there are probably 50 Zen masters of his sort of level in the world. And yet he still goes and does courses in things. Because life is about, you know, it never ends. It's a journey. Why would you stop?
Yeah. You
Why-
think you've arrived, you're not paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, we're all a process, and it's just we're learning to surf the waves. That's all really, and it's a great journey. We don't know where it's going to take us, but at least we're going to be awake on the journey, and when we get there, if we ever get wherever we go.
Like the way I'm going to introduce it more into my life is I find it quite hard. Like I've got a really bad presentation, so I find it hard doing it in like busy environments. I think I find it hard to like always do it on the train or the bus. So I said I'd do it when like things are more peaceful to me and relaxing. So like when I'm making my tea,
Yeah.
just like being present, like mindful thoughts, and like having a shower or a bath. I feel like that would be like a really relaxing kind of thing. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And did you got anything you wanted to share as well, Jackie?
It's reminded me of how happy person I actually am and how grounded I feel in my natural state. It's reminded me that I'm not what has happened to me or what has happened around me. And it's reminded me that I'm powerful and that I just need to focus and lean in. The 100-day challenge is compelling, and I want to do a 100-day countdown and to include a daily practice and develop a meaningful foundation to learn and to soar.
Yeah,
Excuse
sounds
me,
good.
I want to relearn to be mindful and live and breathe in the moments, using the grounding, not grinding, techniques and journaling to keep me on track. And then I would like to, then I want to apply this to my dreams. And for some reason, throughout the class, I felt like doing cartwheels. Thanks, Nick.
Oh, that's lovely, lovely. I mean, I think that, I am conscious that this sounds like I'm doing a sales pitch, but I actually think that what wouldn't be a bad thing for any of you, if you decide you want to do it, is to spend the next year really, really trying to bed these practices in. And then if you're interested at doing the other course, the Insight course, which there's a tiny bit of overlap, but it is mostly new stuff that gives a much more spiritual journey.
Next summer.
Yeah, then you'll be ready for that then, and you'll already have this grounded in your life, and you'll be able to soar.
I feel like it's been a really good thing to. Sorry, I keep talking.
No, that's what you're here for.
I feel like it's been a really good thing to do in summer. Because obviously, like, I don't know what you do, Jackie, but like we're quite like, yeah, we're in that stage where we're like doing a lot and going out and like seeing everyone. So like we're like partying, yes, but it's quite nice to have that Tuesday as our like wind down time. Otherwise, you don't know if just like I'm feeling good or am I just distracted. And I feel like this really makes you like tune in, and I feel like that's why it's really helped me personally throughout summer. Because I had a phase of like I would just be distracted, but this really makes you like tune in sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's been a really good thing to do.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, please just keep it going. That's all I would really ask. Oh, and if any of you feel so inclined to throw a testimonial on an email.
Shall I just send it to you
Yeah.
on text?
Oh, what?
Yeah. Testimonial, a sort of like, feedback comment that I can put online.
A lot of feedback.
Yeah. There's something that you can put on my Instagram account. But
Yeah.
I do feel also, I need to say, I wasn't blaming English people for when I came over to England.
Oh,
it was
Jackie,
just, it was just,
I
it was
don't think
my
I've seen
experience.
that.
It was my experience of dealing with my family where no
Oh,
one
definitely.
Don't
just
worry.
happened with
You
me.
go to London, everyone's horrible, aren't they? Don't
Yeah.
worry. On the tube with my headphones, I am that person too as well.
I always remember when I went to, I think it was Dublin, to a wedding. We stayed in, I've probably told you this, we stayed in a hotel. And have you ever come across, there's a society magazine called Tatler. You ever heard of Tatler? Anyway, it's very, very posh. and there's a section in the back of Tatler called Bystander, which has photographs of people at parties, and it's Lord this and Lady that and supermodel this and, you know, banking billionaire that, and they're all these people, and they're in the English version of Tatler. I mean, this is my recollection from 20 odd years ago. The English version of Tatler, they're all caricature, but they're all, you know, all looking down, awfully superior over everybody else. And I remember picking up the Irish version of Tatler,
Oh, yeah.
and they were all like,
Farmers.
they were all lords and earls and things as well, but they were having fun, and there was no snootiness.
I know Adam and Josh, their family's Irish, and their mum is like the loveliest woman, like so nice. I always think just happy Irish person.
But there's a guy I used to work with, who's an English fellow, he's a writer over here, and he said he was doing this big deal, and he had to go over to kind of seal the deal in Dublin, and he met this guy, whatever, and he was introduced to this, like the CEO and whoever, and he was invited to the guy's house, that's right, and he had a great time, got to know everyone, same deal, we should say, very chill, very relaxed, had a few drinks, everyone had a great time. Sat down at the next table, and or the next morning, he thought, this is in the bag, this is it, you know, I'll get on with these people, we now know one another, we're like blood brothers. And he sat down, and suddenly they started talking business. Nothing had been done. He said he was like, what was set to That's just the Irish English. When it's time to party, party.
You have got to go. I'm going to turn this off.